Hey there, vinyl community people. It's Mike, MGK Boston, back with another video. This week, just another rip on what I've been doing off and on past few months, the playlist series. This would be episode 5 in that. So just to review, if you don't know what that's about, it's basically I keep a lot of notes in my composition book as I hear new music, I always have that nearby and just writing stuff down. And I usually log, not 100% of the time, but I'll write down what I've been listening to throughout the week. And so this is just kind of a summation of that. So, if I come home from work, throw something on, write that down that I listen to it. So, of course, throughout the week, just like everybody else, your moods change, and so does what you feel like listening to as a result of those changes in the tempo of your week. So, again, this is just a random list of about 12 titles, different artists. And again, just like I do, this is really all over the map. No rhyme or reason to it. It's eclectic, folks. Keeps it interesting. So like I do typically on Sunday afternoons rather, I keep it pretty mellow. It's usually some jazz vocal, instrumental stuff. So here's a little jazz vocal with Nancy Wilson. It's Naturally right there. Release date on this one, 1966. This was probably 7th in her series with Capitol. You can see she's on the Capitol label right there. I've talked about her before. Just a really, really excellent vocalist. If you've never heard of Nancy Wilson, look her up. And of course, this was arranged and conducted by Billy May, who was a longtime collaborator with Frank Sinatra. So some of the highlights on this one, In the Dark, is really, really killer. 10 Years of Tears, Just for a Thrill. Ain't That Lovin' You. Look up any of those. Those are all stellar. So it's Nancy Wilson. And it looks like I replaced the inner sleeve on this one again. You can see she was on the Capitol label. So yeah, I'm probably up to about 6 or 7 Nancy Wilson LPs. I'd like to get all the Capitol stuff that she did throughout the 60s, and I'm getting there. So I probably got this one sometime last year, I believe. But again, it's Nancy Wilson, Naturally. First on this playlist, and again, jetting back to last Sunday afternoon. Oh yeah, Lounge Lizard, Burt Kaempfert and his orchestra right there. I've talked about Burt before, German band leader, very active in the 60s into the early 70s. This is Bye Bye Blues. It's recorded in Europe, in case anybody wanted to know. And there's this, I love the cover art on these. It's just priceless. So this guy, look at first, I'm like, is he leaning on a pool cue? No, it looks like he's leaning on a rake because this is like a picket fence. So he's dressed to kill doing it for his yard work, and he's got this hot chick. So he's really happy about doing yard work because he's got to come home to her afterwards. It's just, I love it. So it's Bye Bye Blues, featuring he had a great trumpet player in his orchestra. This is a big orchestra, but this guy Fred Mock, spelled M-O-C-H. You look up any of the Burt Kaempfert clips on YouTube; they're really great. There he is as the conductor, Burt Kaempfert. That is, he didn't play an instrument for the most part. You just conduct the orchestra. But yeah, Bye Bye Blues, the title track on this one. It Makes No Difference. And he does a version of Wiedersehen. Hey, it's Oktoberfest. Wiedersehen. So anyway, it's Bye Bye Blues. This one's probably about 1964, I'd say. And it's in perfect condition. This was in my dad's collection. Decca right there. And Stereophonic Sound on the Decca label. I love that Decca logo. Isn't that cool? Multicolor, of course. All right, that's Burt Kaempfert for all you Lounge Lizards out there. Can you dig it? All right, totally shifting gears. Yeah, there she is. It's J-Lo. This is a used copy of this CD I would have picked up around the time this came out. 1999. This is her debut release. Not to be written off. She can really sing in the same kind of school as like a Gloria Estefan. She's got that hot Latino thing going on. And this is her debut, 10 from 6. And one of her ex-husbands, Mark Anthony, he was on this. He was involved with the production and co-wrote a couple of tracks on here. No Me, Me, that's a duet she does on here. I'm probably mispronouncing that. That's a duet she does on here with Mark Anthony. It's actually the tropical remix version, apparently. But yeah, I bought this at the time for a few bucks used. Like I said, she's, total smoke show. Look at her. And she still looks fantastic. Now I think she's on her 4th husband. So the reason I pulled this one is because Ben Affleck and her. That's, I think, her fourth husband. They were in town here in Boston early January filming a commercial for Dunkin' Donuts. So I was thinking about Jennifer Lopez. So I was like, hey, I wonder, I'm gonna listen to this forever. So I'll throw this on. The big single for this from this one is a track called "Waiting for Tonight." If you're curious, look that up. That was a charting single on this debut. There she is on the back. Looks like she's just come out of the water on the beach. And more stuff on the inside. Here she is again. Total beauty. Just a bunch of pictures of her on the inside. There she is again. So yeah, we'll see how long it lasts with her and Ben. This is like a redo. They were together before. Patty, my wife, used to get People magazine all the time, so I'd read all the crap about the celebrities. I'm just as guilty as she is. I love it. Love the gossip rags. So yeah, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. It's Jennifer Lopez, 10 from 6, 1999, the release on that one. Living Color, Vivid. This is the debut. These guys were championed by none other than Mick Jagger. They actually opened for the Stones on whatever tour they were on at this point. In 1988 was the original release on this debut. Of course, at this point, that's when I just started buying CDs. This is probably one of the first CDs I ever picked up. And you can see here, it's actually, it's co-produced by Mick Jagger, if you can see that right there. There's Mick right there. So yeah, lead guitarist, a guy named Vernon Reid, and the singer was a guy named Corey Glover. Big track from this one's a song called Cult of Personality. And Open Letter to a Landlord is probably the other big highlight for me on this one. Let's see, there's a picture of them. There's the guys on the inside. I don't know what happened to them after this. I only have this debut. Not much on the inside, just the lyric sheet. But yeah, it's a solid effort. It's good. I listened to it all the way through. And probably the first time I've listened to this in probably over 30 years. And you can see they were on the Epic label right there. Yeah, back when the CDs were with a brand new thing, there was no real color on them. They were just the silver CDs. That's it. So it's Living Color, Vivid. Again, 1988 on that one. Wouldn't be me over here if I didn't have a little classic country. Here we go. It's Fair and Young. This is basically his first 10 years of activity from 1952 to right through to 1963. So he goes from more real traditional kind of Hank Williams-y stuff, and then it gets a little more polished in the second half of the record. On this one, you can see all the tracks listed right there. So again, going steady, kicks it off. All these songs don't clock in at more than 3 minutes. Of course, big one on here, Hello Walls from 1961. That was written by Willie Nelson. When Willie Nelson was an up-and-coming songwriter in Nashville, that really broke him on the scene. He became well known for Hello Walls because that was his first hit, I suppose, as a songwriter, and of course performed here by Fair and Young. It's been done by a number of people. There's Farron right there. Kind of a sad ending for Farron Young. Another one of these rock and roll suicides, self-inflicted gunshot wound in 1996. He was a raging alcoholic. At one point when he divorced from his wife, the story goes, they had houses on the same street. They just couldn't live together. So I thought that was pretty amusing. But yeah, very traditional country and western. Great set of pipes, great singer. So if you're into that kind of thing, classic honky tonk, look up some Fair and Young. And this is a really good start here. You can see he was on Capitol. Yeah. Again, it's kind of that orchestrated country and western with the backup singers, all that. You can see there's the Capitol logo. And the star line, I don't know what that meant, if that was kind of an early division, a Capitol featuring country artists. I'm not sure what the star line actually, what that was. But again, Fair and Young, all-time great hits of Fair and Young. Here we go, sweating to the oldies here. It's the Righteous Brothers. They were probably 5 or 6 records in at this point. This is release date on this one's 1966. Produced by Phil Spector. It's unmistakable as soon as you throw this on the turntable and you hear that first track, Soul and Inspiration. It's the wall of sound kicks in. It's just really terrific. These guys could really sing. Bill Medley and I forget the other guy's name. They actually weren't brothers, these two guys. They do a great version on here, Turn On Your Love Light, which of course was later covered by Grateful Dead. did a version of that. In the Midnight Hour, that's a Wilson Pickett song on here, but this was kind of their peak. And then after this, you could see a couple of moments on this record where they're kind of veering into easy listening territory, which is where they'd end up in the 1970s. But here they are, a couple of studs here. They were at their peak. Again, this was on Verve. I don't know why they were on Verve, because they were a pop act. I never see Verve for any pop or rock music, but here it is. This is Verve on the Verve label. Yeah, not much on the inside. That's pretty minimalist. And you can see right here. Soul and Inspiration on the unmistakable Verve logo right there. So it's the Righteous Brothers, Soul and Inspiration. So after that, of course, that version of In the Midnight Hour they did of the Wilson Pickett original. I veered right over here to Bryan Ferry and Roxy Music. This, of course, is a collection when they were on the Atlantic label. It's called the Atlantic Years, as you can see, 1973 to 1980, the years right there. This is just like a bunch of super hits. Well, I mean, they were never a top 40 act, but these were all singles. And of course, they do a version on here of right there of In the Midnight Hour, which is really excellent. Side 2 on this, Ain't That So, is kind of even got like a funky vibe to it. Look that song up. It's not a Roxy Music song you hear often. Again, Ain't That So, the name of that track. And Love Is the Drug. Everybody knows that one. Of course, Grace Jones does a really good version of that. Oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah, I mean, this is just solid. I mean, it's a compilation, and that's why all the songs are really great. That other version of the Atco logo right there. The division of Atlantic Records, of course, Atco. So again, Roxy Music, the Atlantic Years. You can see the maple leaf right up there in the corner. I would have bought this in high school when I was still living in Ontario, Canada. I've been a fan of this band since I was probably about 15 years old. Yeah, so of course, not long after this, the Avalon album came out in 1981, and that was the end of Roxy Music. And then Bryan Ferry went his own separate way and kept his solo career going that he'd had going concurrently with Roxy Music throughout the 1970s, and he kept going with that. And I actually got to see him live in 1988 on the Bête Noire tour, one of my favorite concert moments. Speaking of concerts, I mentioned Supertramp in that disaster video I made last Saturday. But it's wild. It's almost got 200 views, that Random Finds video I did. I was scrambling for about 3 minutes before I got my ass in a chair. That was outrageous. It was really funny watching it playback on that one, but a lot of people seem to dig it, so I'm gonna do more of those. As disoriented as it seems, people seem to like it because it's spontaneous, right? And you know, it just makes it more entertaining. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. Concert moment. Here's Supertramp. I never saw them live, but this was just, I don't know if this was the Breakfast in America tour. It certainly was within the same year. This was 1980, recorded, of course, in Paris. And it's a double. Yeah, because I think I showed in that Random Finds, Crisis, What Crisis, and it got me thinking about Supertramp. It's a band that I go to every couple of years. It's not a frequent thing for me, because if you ever listen to classic rock radio, you're hearing Supertramp all the time. So it's not, you know, and I don't listen to a lot of commercial classic rock radio anymore. I'm more of always been a college radio guy, excuse me. And there's the band right there. I don't know if they're coming or going from the stage. There's Roger Hodgson, lead singer. Hodgson, right? There we go. So, yeah, the album was recorded in France and mixed at Chateau Recorders, wherever that is. So anyway, Paris Pavilion, November 29th, 1979, actually, I take that back. But the record was recorded in 79, so this had to be the Breakfast in America tour. And so it features a lot of tracks from that. Breakfast in America, of course, the title track from that. And then there's some older stuff on here, like Ain't Nobody But Me. Hide in Your Shell is one of my favorite Supertramp songs. That's a really good one. Crime of the Century closes out the whole thing on record 2, side 4. So yeah, and Take the Long Way Home, of course, also from Breakfast in America. Supertramp, Paris. I keep my promises. This is eclectic. You never see classical music, hardly ever, in the vinyl community, and I don't have a lot in my collection. The classical music I do have is mostly operatic, because I like opera. What I do know about it, I don't know much. I know my friend John D at Down Under Tunage. He's a fan. of the opera stuff. So maybe John, drop a comment. This is purely instrumental, and this is Glenn Gould right there, as you can see. Glenn Gould, really interesting story. He's a fellow Canuck like myself. He was from Toronto, born and raised, and attended the Royal Conservatory of Music. I remember walking by that building a whole bunch of times. It's right downtown by the University of Toronto, and it's of course where people go trained to be classically trained in the music world. I don't know if I'm saying that, trying to get the words out. But again, this is Glenn Gould was again a child prodigy. He was performing in concert by the age of 15, but then he hung it all up. Very world-class eccentric, this guy. I think around the age of 32, he stopped performing. He kept recording, but he refused to perform live. And then he died of a severe stroke only when he was 50 years old. So this is Beethoven sonatas. I love the Beethoven sonatas. It's just really peaceful. It's nice. And yeah, I think it was Wednesday. We had a bunch of snow here, and I was working remotely, so I just put this on in the background. I didn't get into the office that day, so I was just listening to this in the background. And it's really nice. I haven't listened to this in ages, but there's no point in naming all these different allegros. Pathétique is the one that kicks it off, and that's in 3 movements. As you can see right here, there it is. En français, pathétique. Yeah, and it's Glenn Gould. Beethoven sonatas. There's Glenn walking in the snow. Perfect, because we actually have a snowy day again today on a Saturday. So, but it is going to be 50 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow, so it's going to melt it all. So I can't wait to see it go. I'm ready for spring. All right. Jam on. It's Moby Grape. It's called Grape Jam. I've never seen this shown in the vinyl community. I've seen some Moby Grape, like the debut. So this was basically a jam in the studio. It just freeform jam. And sitting in on side 2, Mike Bloomfield and Al Cooper were involved in this as well. You can see side 1, you can see Al Cooper's here. So it was the guys from Moby Grape, along with there's Mike Bloomfield, the late great, and then there's Al Cooper on the keys, sitting in for this session. Brings a whole new layer to it. Of course, they were a real psychedelic outfit, Moby Grape, but then you get a little bit more of a blues element with Mike Bloomfield and Al Cooper. Marmalade on side 2. That's really excellent with Mike Bloomfield. So yeah, and there they are in the studio. It's called Grape Jam. Release date on this one, I want to say, I don't know, 1968, 69, something like that. Anyway, and we're veering near the end here. Little 80s pop rock, more like new wave, if you will. I don't know how to categorize big country, actually. Featuring the late great Stuart Adamson on lead guitar and lead vocals. This was their debut, The Crossing, released in 1983. Of course, on the Mercury label. There's the band on the inside. Really, really, this is one of the best debuts. You can see there's the personnel listing right there. 4-piece band from Scotland. Nice booklet with all the lyrics on the inside. And yeah, that was it for photos in here. Just that photo at the front of the band. And there's their unmistakable logo right there. So yeah, unfortunately, as a great debut, the follow-up wasn't so great. Steel Town had a couple of moments, but I don't have that anymore. I only have this. And then after that, they had output, but it just, none of it really was, grabbed me a whole lot. And then, so Stuart Adamson, as the story goes, another raging alcoholic, substance abuse issues over the years, and he eventually, death by hanging. This is getting morbid, isn't it? Guns and hanging. Around 2000, 2001, he committed suicide. So it was a sad end, formal end to big country at that point. I don't think they're doing anything with a new singer. I could be off on that, but I think I'm right. And of course, there's, again, I said on the Mercury label, some of the moments on this, In a Big Country, Inwards, and Chance, they come in hot with those 3 tracks. But of course, Fields of Fire is another one on here. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. This is Big Country, their debut, again, released in 1983. And this is a 1991 release, this band, Kitchen's a Distinction, from somewhere in the UK. Kind of a funny, stupid name, Kitchen's a Distinction. It makes me sound like I'm going to an interior decorator than a band, but here they are. This is like kind of really jangly pop in the tradition of who I compare them to. maybe James to a certain degree, if you know that band. There's another band called the Wild Swans, also from England, or Echo and the Bunnymen for that matter. Really jangly, kind of pleasant guitar work, and the vocals are really nice, and it's just got a real lush, full sound to it. Railwayed is the song on this you want to look for. Kicks it off. Quick as Rainbows is excellent. It's just really excellent. They had a follow-up to this, and I have it somewhere here. I had it pulled out here. I don't know where it was. The follow-up was not very good. So this debut, again, it's one of these situations where a band comes in hot, and the follow-up kind of sucked. But they're produced by a guy named Hugh Jones, who I believe actually worked with Echo and the Bunnymen. So you get a bit of that transference in the sound. And yeah, you can see it's from the CD library of yours truly. There's the back, so I don't know what's on the inside here. Nothing. And there they are, Kitchens of Distinction. The name of this record, Strange Free World, as you can see there. So yeah, Kitchens of Distinction. Yeah, again, this released in 1991, but it certainly could have fit in 1986. It has more of a 80s vibe to me, but it's really good. So again, look up a couple of those tracks, Railwayed or Quick as Rainbows, not to be missed. Really good. Oh, what am I saying? Here's the follow-up here, Death of Cool. I bought this just because I love the debut so much. I only listened to this a few times, and it's just not very good. And then we're veering off into some jazz. This is the last one in the list, folks. This will be Jimmy Smith. It's called The Sermon. Looks like he's preaching it. He's actually just preaching the jazz. Electric organ player Jimmy Smith, but on this one he's got Lee Morgan on trumpet, Lou Donaldson on saxophone, Kenny Burrell's on guitar, and Art Blakey on drums. This is just really great. It's only 3 songs. Of course, The Sermon captures is all of side A, and then side 2, there's 2 tracks, JOS and Flamingo, both excellent too. Art Blakey's drums are unmistakable once he kicks it in. But yeah, it's really good. The whole side, called The Sermon, of course you can see here on Blue Note. Really, really excellent. So yeah, there's Sermon, Jimmy Smith. Preach it, Jimmy. Blue Note, promo on the inside. The finest in jazz since 1939 on Blue Note. So that's going to wrap it up, folks, for playlist episode 5. Hope you enjoyed that. Closing out with my man Jimmy. Right there he is. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go over sometime later today, enter a contest for Chris from Record Talk. He's got some going on. I'm going to check that out. So it's a pretty much an indoor day today. Like I said, we had a bit of snow, but again, it's going to melt tomorrow, so I can get out and get a run in on my Sunday fun day. So whatever you're doing, you're part of the world. I hope it's going great, and I'll see you next time.